Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. I'm Maria Casillas, joined here by my incredible co-host, Cody Sizemore. We're excited to be here with you today. We want to share with you a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff going on in our lives and how in the world that can relate to the stuff that's going on in your coaching business. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in today. If you would like to connect with us further, we encourage you to do that via our Facebook group, which is called The Financial Coaches Community by New Money Habits. Just click on there to join, answer a couple very easy questions, and you will be part of that community where we will be able to connect with you and answer any questions that you have. All right, Cody, speaking of answering questions, we have a habit of asking each other how things are going, what's going on in your life. And before we hit record today, you were sharing with me a little story about you and your 11-year-old daughter, or the preteen. Woohoo! I love that stage. I kind of said, hey, wait, stop. I don't want you to finish this entire story because I want our listeners to hear it, because I think it is so relevant to some of the stuff that I think is going on in people's minds. And I just wanted to be able to share that with them. So without further ado, could you share with us the story that you have? And then we can talk a little bit about why I would even ask that and what we'd like our listeners to learn today.
Yeah, so it's a pretty simple story. It's not anything long. However, I do understand how this applies to what we're going to be kind of talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she is like really, really into making nails. She's actually very talented at it. Like, it's actually pretty crazy. I have a friend who owns a salon, and she's even said like, "Hey, would she ever consider selling some stuff in the salon?" And I'm just like, that's sweet, especially
Mm-hmm.
for an 11-year-old. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So, she was focusing on some nails, and we were kind of talking through some things. And she says something along the lines of like, yeah, well, there are certain things that I just know more than you do. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. There are certain things that you know more than I do. There are also things that I know more than you, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I followed it up and I said, but I'm actually okay with you knowing a little bit more than I do on certain things, because to be completely honest with you, there's a lot of things that I know nothing about. And that's okay because I'm always willing to learn, kind of thing. And then she rolled her eyes at me. So, so that's the story, So
I love
Maria,
it.
you take that and run with it however you please.
Yeah, well, there was a question that came into us about how do you deal with a client when they ask you questions that you don't know the answers to? And I think that is the way that you described what you did is it's actually a beautiful description of what we can do with our clients. But it does make me smile over here because I am the mom of 4 girls, and so I've been in that preteen thing. I'm in the thick of teenagery into young adulthood right now, and I tell you what, Cody, that whole idea of, there's things I know way more than you do, just gonna get worse.
Oh yeah, I know.
And what's kind of funny is there's gonna be so many things that they think they know more than you do, but it's not gonna be about nails. It's gonna be about real life stuff, and they actually don't know. It's just
Yeah.
one of those developmental things. It's pretty fun. So, do you think you're tired now, bro?
I'm
Strap
fully
in, man.
prepared for it.
Anyway, okay, so so getting back to our actual audience, if somebody asks a question that you don't know, that's okay. I think this is so important, Cody, because so many people, whether it's our listeners or not, maybe our listeners they're a little bit, higher than average. But so many people don't ever start doing something new
Mhm.
because of the fear of not knowing all of the responses. And I think that your description of an interaction between you and your daughter is actually such a beautiful representation of what this can look like. Because if you thought, I'm never going to have kids until I know all the answers about having kids,
Mhm.
I'm assuming you'd never have children because
Yeah.
we don't know. Like, a parent is like, it's one of the most unknown things ever. I'll share this quick little side note. My daughter's boyfriend is a nurse, and he actually just graduated, and he started doing, his nursing rounds or whatever. And he was, I don't know if he was complaining or just explaining, but he was telling her, "Oh my goodness, I had the busiest night. I was the only one on the floor, dot dot dot." And so she comes to me, she goes, "Mom, like he was up at like 4 in the morning with puking people and cleaning up. And could you even imagine?" I was like, "I'm the mom of 4 kids. Yeah, I can imagine." "No, no, no, but you don't understand, Mom. Like, it was like he had no sleep and blah." I'm like, "Yeah, believe me, I can
I
imagine."
get it.
And so that little side note just reminds me that we have no idea what we're signing up for when we become parents. We have no idea what we're signing up for sometimes when we become coaches. And so we are learning along the way, and that is important. And we do not need to pretend to know everything. And so it does beg the question, what do we do when a client asks us a question that we don't know the answer to? Well, I think it's okay to just say, "I don't know." It
Well,
That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that, but I know where I can find the answer, or I know someone I can talk to learn more about that thing. Or how about we learn about that thing together? There are so many responses that we could do, and it really is just going to depend on your relationship with that client and what is the question and what is the ultimate result that you'd like to have with that
mhm.
discussion.
Totally. Totally. And I think that it's a little bit scary for us as coaches to do that because for whatever reason, in our minds, we have told ourselves that we should be the person who knows all the answers.
Yeah, we're the
Um,
expert. I'm using air quotes
yeah,
for those who are just listening. Uh-huh.
yeah. I think that it's a validation thing in a lot of ways. And I would even go so far to say that there might be there might be some coaches out there that kind of views themselves in relation to their clients as a savior in certain
Mm,
ways. They couldn't do it without you. And because of that, you need to know all the answers, kind of thing.
mm. Oh, the
So,
pressure.
first and foremost, that's not the case. Okay. You are not the savior. You are the guide. There's a completely different standing there. And quite frankly, at least in my experience, when I have been met with these situations to where I didn't know the answer to certain things, I don't want to say every single time it's worked out in a positive way, but I would say the vast majority. There might have been like one or two scenarios to where it was like kind of like a weird thing. But most of the time, people actually appreciate that. Rather than you just like, you know, lying, number one,
Mhm,
or number two, you give them kind of an answer and it turns out to be half right or it turns out to be incorrect
mhm,
after they do their own research because they take the steps that you said and
mhm,
then it backfires on you.
mhm,
So, uh, in my experience, a lot of these people actually appreciate the fact that you're being honest with them. But I think that it is important to do what you said, which is like tell them, hey, I have a feeling it's this, but I'm not exactly sure. So let me do some more research on this. I know who I can talk to. I know where I can go to find this out for sure. And then we can reconnect on this, at this date or whatever it might be. Next time we meet,
mhm,
whatever. Um, that kind of due diligence, it builds a lot of trust between you and your clients, which is a massive, massive part of your relationship with them. And
mhm,
that's ultimately the most important thing, in my opinion. It's not necessarily the tangible results that you get with people that's going to keep them coming back and keep them raving about you. It is the relationship that they have with you that's going to keep them coming back and to keep them raving about you to their friends and their families. So if you
mm,
prioritize that and you're honest with them and then you do your own due diligence for them, you're literally serving them. That's what you're doing. You're not saving them, you're serving them. And there's a big difference there.
mhm. Yeah, and I'm gonna take it one step further and encourage you to empower them, and the way that you would do that is to actually wrestle with that question, depending on the question. If it's a very, cut and dry response, then maybe you need to go find something somewhere else. But if it's more philosophical or, it could be a continuum of response, you can just sit in that with them and ask them, well, what do you think about this? And I trust me, I get it. People don't always love that because a lot of times we're lazy. We want to be fed the answer. Totally understand that. But if our job is to help empower other people to be able to do it themselves and create a sense of self-efficacy, if you think about the motivational term in psychology,
Mhm.
self-efficacy is your ability to see your ability to actually do something. Then if we're wanting to do that for our clients, we have to think about it in terms of them not always having us, right? So it's
Mhm.
kind of comes full circle to going back to with your daughter. You don't want your daughter to always rely on you. You want her to rely on you when she's 11, but you don't want her to rely on you when she's 41. And so there is that transition of helping her to recognize where there are some shortcomings and how to fill those. And the same thing with us in our coaching relationships. We want to help our clients be able to answer some of these tough questions themselves. And so that's we want to be able to do that, but they're not going to know how to do that unless we model it for them and we work through it with them. And so I just wanted to encourage people. It's not something that comes naturally, and to myself either. That is a skill that I've had to learn. I admittedly have learned it more through teaching my children as a homeschool mom than I have through coaching, but the application of that skill to coaching has been absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I want to build off what you just said and then maybe even take it a step further as well. So when we are honest and we're transparent about not knowing something, I think that another thing that communicates to our clients is that we're always willing to continue learning,
Mhm.
right? And it doesn't matter if you're someone who's just starting off with their finances. It doesn't matter if you're someone who's quote unquote an expert with finances and you're a financial coach, that we're always trying to learn new things and that there's always new things to learn as well.
Yeah.
So asking questions and doing research is always encouraged. And you kind of lead by example in that sense. Um, Going back to the whole conversation around the 11-year-old as well, I had told her, I said, hey, like, there's a lot of things that I don't know anything about, but I'm always willing to learn. Right. Um, what that's basically communicating to her, I feel, is that I'm always willing to step into an uncomfortable place. I'm always willing to ask questions. And I also have a humility around me that knows that I understand, like, hey, like, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything kind of thing.
Mhm.
So it's a growth oriented mindset. So to me, I think that communicates to my daughter, hey, you should always be asking questions. Always.
Mhm.
Even if you feel like you know everything, you should always be open to asking questions. Um, I teach my kids that all the time. Is like there's nothing wrong with asking questions, except if you're my 4-year-old and he keeps asking why to every single thing. So that's a slippery slope.
And
um,
and yet that is so beautiful that he actually has a curiosity to know why. I
oh
I
yeah,
know it
he
can
wants to
grind
know
on you too.
why to the why to the why to the why to the why.
Yep.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
and I'm just like, stop.
Don't tell him stop, just say, "I don't know."
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I think that doing that it allows your clients to understand that even with your help and even with your guidance, that even if they get themselves into a better place, maybe they were in debt, maybe they're into a lot of debt, and maybe they've gotten themselves to a place where they only have a little bit of debt. Maybe they had no surplus and now they have a place to where they have a big surplus. A lot of times I think that people or clients can feel like they get to a certain point and then they quote unquote know everything or they have everything that they need. Um, and then they maybe stop working with us and then they regress sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And maybe it was their decision to stop working with you, and that's fine. But maybe it was a premature thing because we built them up to think that they're crushing it all the time and like everything's going so great all the time. So leading by example of you being the quote unquote expert and knowing that like, hey, there's always more to learn. There's always more to grow from. That can then translate to your clients to help them continue to grow, even if they've seen good results. And that's not in an effort of like keeping people on for longer as clients. Can it translate to that? Yes. But I think that the point is that it doesn't matter how far you come with your finances. There's always going to be that next level that you can learn from and that you can grow from.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you ended that with the description of leading by example,
Hmm.
because earlier you said that it communicates to your daughter and to our clients, dot, dot, dot. And communicate it's true that it does communicate that to people, but it's not just the communication because we can just tell all we want, but modeling for them how to do that is so important, and I know you didn't use the word modeling, but you basically summed that up with leading by example, and that is so, so important. So if you're listening to this today and going, "Oh, I need to be a little bit more, willing to tell them that I don't know all the answers or that it's okay for them to not know all the answers and to ask questions." Don't just tell them. Don't just communicate it to them. Model it for them. Lead by example because that's truly how people learn. Whether you're 11 or 111, we are learning by watching other people, and we if we model that well for them, then they will do it well.
Hmm. Absolutely. Awesome. So if you don't know, it's okay.
Don't be a know-it-all.
That's the short version of this episode.
Right.
So,
See, they could have just fast forwarded through all of that and hit
yep,
that the
yep,
last few seconds. No, I do hope that you guys actually enjoy some of this wrestling of our own, trying to get through some of this because we don't know all the answers, obviously. And it's always neat to just kind of hear our own perspectives because, we've only known each other how long, Cody? 5 years? We've
yeah,
never
about
met, like, we've
five or
never
six.
actually met.
Yep,
But yeah, and so we're learning right along with all of you. So thank you for joining us on that journey.
yep. Alrighty, guys. Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Financial Coaches Podcast. We'll be back again next week with another episode, so make sure to tune in then. See you
See you
then.
then.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our hosts by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching.